Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first in an ongoing series called The Elder Scrolls Detective, in which we will investigate, speculate, theorize, hypothesize, and often just point out cool, interesting, and easily overlooked things, stories, and details in the Elder Scrolls games. Today, we will be investigating the Altmer conjurer in Skyrim, named Arondil, who has been performing experiments which combine necromancy and slavery. Now, to get some excellent pretext, we can go and speak to Vekel the Man in the Ragged Flag, the guy that runs the place. He has a quest that revolves around Arondil, and the information he has is some very interesting foresight. So let's talk to him and have a listen as to what he has to say. By the end of it, your eyebrows will be raised.
Now that you mention it, there is. I have a buyer with, shall we say, a very odd taste in literature, looking for some particular books. I'm told they're the ravings of a madman, a wizard named Arondil, and his peculiar cravings. It's said to be spread across 4 volumes and very hard to come by. My client is offering quite a reward for them, which I'd split with you. Then we have a deal. In his later years, Arondil moved into some ice caves known as Yngvild. He preferred the solitude in which to perform his experiments. Recently, a woman was found, naked and shivering along the road to Dawnstar. The only information the guard could get from her were tales of strange experiments, and Arondil scribbling in his journals. Only rumors. He used to have a home in Dawnstar until they burned it down. The people say he was doing unspeakable experiments on reanimation, rituals only a necromancer would perform. After he made for Yngvild, he was never heard from again.
Now, although the quest is not necessary to experience any of the things shown in the video, it does, as I said earlier, give some very interesting pretext to what we are going to uncover. So Arondil, an Altmer conjurer, was performing such heinous experiments in Dawnstar that the townsfolk burnt his house down. I had a good look around the town of Dawnstar and could find no remnants of a burnt down house. They could have very easily wished to cover up any memories or reminders that Arondil used to live there and perform his dark experiments. I wonder which one of Dawnstar's milkmaids was the unlucky girl that witnessed and was captured by Arondil and was subject to his dark experiments. But now we must leave the light and protection of Dawnstar and head northeast. On an island off the northern shore of Skyrim, we will find it, the ancient Nordic ruin Yngvild. Although it seems this Nordic ruin has not been in use for many years, at the back of the island there is a cave that leads down into a tunnel system which eventually leads into the ruins. As we can see, upon entering, it has been hollowed out and cleared. It doesn't take long to find remains of ancient Nordic civilization, as we'll find sarcophagi that are all open. Almost straight away, we will also begin finding skeletons in odd positions. It also does not take us long to discover the Draugr in here. There are many, many Draugr, all of which carry one very particular and specific trait. The entirety of this Draugr army in Yngvild are female Draugr, something that will make much more sense very soon. Along with the Draugr, we will find the Yngvild ghosts. Again, they all have that one very specific trait. They are all female. So this is all well and good, but now we should start getting to the meat of it. As we get further into the dungeon, we will find more volumes of Arondil's journals. Let's read the first one now. Arondil's journal, Day 1. It seems the cretins of Dawnstar are not quite as foolish as I had surmised. They found my experimentations and, needless to say, were not pleased with what they saw. No matter, my work can only flourish without the distractions of living amongst the unenlightened. I have found a cave off the north coast of Skyrim that will be more than sufficient for my continued studies. The ruins of Yngvild should hold the materials I need to learn more about reanimating and enslaving the dead. On a personal note, I will miss the young maidens of Dawnstar. Such beauty was intoxication. I often found my thoughts wandering around them, imagining secret encounters between myself and one or two of the local girls. So far it just seems like one of my diaries. But this still doesn't explain too much. Continuing further into Yngvild, we will discover a table on which is an axe, a scroll of Ray's zombie, I can only imagine what he's been using that for, and the second part to the journal, Arondil's journal. Day 8. I have established a temporary workstation in these cold caves, and have found multiple burial chambers within the snow and ice. While in the first chamber I exhumed a few test subjects, all female, I was stunned to find my mind wandering again to the women of Dawnstar, as I examined my first find. At first I was slightly disturbed by my thoughts, but later I found myself re-evaluating. Day 9. The first trials went splendidly. Each subject was reanimated in a state of total complicity, bending to my every task and whim. I have ordered a few of my new servants to guard the island, while the rest will act as my personal entourage, standing by me at all times, watching over me while I sleep. So at this point we realize that this guy's pretty psycho. But to push the psycho even further, the third part of the diary, Arondil's journal. Day 21, an intriguing development. Tonight my guards have brought me a trespasser they found near the cave. At first I was understandably upset. Not only was I disturbed during one of my few moments alone with my favorite servant, but I recognized the trespasser, a milkmaid from Dawnstar. She remembered me as well, and made bold claims that I had been lurking near her at all hours. What lies! True, I had taken notice of her on occasion, but she was nowhere near the most noticeable of maidens in town. Her continued accusations, coupled with my fear of more uninvited guests, led me to conclude that she could never return to Dawnstar. My servants were quick to carry out my sentencing. Her body is here next to me as I write this. Funny, her eyes are still so full of life. Perhaps I will try a new experiment tonight, using fresher materials. Again, with the fresh materials, I don't think this guy's taking up sewing either. But we'll deconstruct the diaries a little bit later on. For now, let's head into the final chamber of Yngvild, called the Throne Room. As soon as we enter, we will find Arondil on a throne, accompanied by a spectral servant of his. It's funny how the dead girl still had life in her eyes, yet this living necromancer does not. As we can see on the pedestal behind the ghost, there is a soul gem. This soul gem is being used by Arondil to control and bend the ghost's will. Heading down a side passage within the throne room, we can find what I can only describe as the fridge or the prison, inside of which Arondil definitely performed his reanimation experiments, as inside we can find the bodies of 3 fresh, young females. This is definitely what he was referring to when he said fresher materials, as up till this point he only had the drugger to play with, but now he has again his fresh materials, like he's talking about Basil. So at this point it's getting pretty dark, and we can actually exact some revenge. In the throne room, where there is the soul gem on the plinth controlling the ghost, if you're sneaky enough, you can sneak around behind them both and take it off of the plinth. Upon doing so, the ghost will turn hostile towards Arondil and actually kill him. So anyone triggered by this fiend, at least some justice has been served. Now behind the throne room, there is a bedroom. On the floor we can find red mountain flowers and wine, but the bed. What's in the bed? Perhaps one of the freshly reanimated milkmaids of Dawnstar. Incorrect. He's gone with a ghost. He hasn't used his fresh materials. Arondil has been sleeping with ghosts. Again, against their will. He's come here specifically to bend them all to his will. But a ghost? Why a ghost? When he has these fresh bodies that he could reanimate? The answer lies within a book on the table in the bedroom. Arondil's Journal Part 4. Day 28. The new experiments have proven a success. The milkmaid, whose name still escapes me, was revived as the others, bowing to my command, with only one interesting development. She has reformed incorporeally, more phantasm than reanimated dead, As her glowing visage stood before me, I found my hands reaching out to touch her. As my fingers passed through her, I felt a sensation unlike any other, as if her essence were invigorating my very soul, connecting with me on a level no woman of flesh and blood could do. This discovery is life-changing. Day 35, I have ordered my older servant to go out and find any more subjects that may have become lost. With the discovery of the inner sanctum deeper still within Yngvild, I should have sufficient room to store many new materials until I can transform them into willing slaves. I look back on my daydreams whilst living in Dawnstar and wonder if they were in fact portents of times to come. Alright, so many things need to be explained and just brought straight into the light and investigated here. So in the first diary he's come here, he started resurrecting the dead, and while he's doing all this, he still finds that his thoughts are wandering to the milkmaids of Dawnstar. So he's digging up ancient dead Nordic chicks while fantasizing about them jiggly milkmaids of Dawnstar. Then in the second part of the diary, as he's digging up the dead bodies of these ancient Nordic all-female Draga, he finds his mind wandering again to the milkmaids. Then he is stunned to find that his mind has kind of crossed the two thoughts. He's thinking of the Bustum babes from Dawnstar. Meanwhile, he has a huge supply of female Draga. Even he says at first he was slightly disturbed, but then found himself re-evaluating. In a sense, applying the mindset of beggars can't be choosers. He can't necessarily get the milkmaid, so hey, make use of what he's got. Some 1,000-year-old Draga. He was able to summon them. All of the reanimated corpses or Draga were in a total state of complacency, bending to his every task. And I think that line there, bending, might be literal. Then he's ordered them to guard the island, the rest are his personal entourage, like he's some boy band or something. But then that last line, standing by me at all times, standing watch over me while I sleep. That's weird. That almost goes beyond thing and just goes into some weird, like, psychological mummy issues thing. I don't know what the hell that is. Now, in the third part of the diary, when the trespassers found and brought to him, he says at first he was understandably upset because he was disturbed during one of his few moments alone with his favorite servant. And then he goes on to say that he recognized her as a milkmaid from Dawnstar. And this is where he gets the idea to get fresher materials for his experiments. But what this means is, this chick that was brought to him and disturbed his time with his favorite servant was the first fresh material girl, which means he was spending alone time with either a skeleton or a Draga. Did this guy really stick his wizard wand into that dusty snapper? Good God, man. I hope he had a spell for lubrication. This guy's taking the term boning to a whole new level. And then part 3 of the diary ends with him just saying that he ordered his Draga entourage to kill the girl. Then he's saying how funny it is that she still has life in her eyes even though her corpse is next to him as he writes this. But this Dawnstar milkmaid was the beginning of his fresh materials. And now in the final part of the diary, he brought the milkmaid back to life so he could play with some fresh materials. She was reanimated as the others bowing to his every command, except with one interesting development. She reformed incorporeally, which means she didn't have a physical material body, but instead she was more phantasm, meaning of course she was like a phantom, a ghost. And as he's standing there, he goes to feel her up and his hand goes straight through her and he goes, "Oh dude, that feels fucking heaps good." He felt a sensation unlike any other, as if her essence were invigorating his very soul, connecting with him on a level no woman of flesh and blood could do. So now what he's done, he's actually gone beyond philia and progressed to a plane in which I had to actually look up as an actual word, which is spectrophilia, which is the sexual attraction to ghosts as well as the phenomenon of sexual encounters between ghosts and humans. Crowning Arondil, Skyrim's Altmer, necromancer, spectrophiliac ghost. That's one hell of a title, but it's 100% legit as we've learned from this video. This guy's a psychopath. Although, we do now know that there is an upside to having a haunted house. Also, in his bedroom we can find the Grand Staff of Charming. I mean, of all the staffs to find, he has a staff for charming the ladies. Although I'm sure at this point, the ghosts of Yngvild are sick of long, hard things. Now remember how on his bedroom floor we could find red mountain flowers? Well, there may be a little bit more to this story. As I already covered in my The Pale Curating Curious Curiosities video, we have the Lover's Tent, a tent found on the northern shore right near Dawnstar. On the map it's actually located between Dawnstar and Yngvild, and despite having some interesting things in the Curating Curious Curiosities video, we were unable to conclude who had been here and what the purpose of this tent was. Well, I think I found it. On the inside we can find wine, food, goblets, red mountain flowers, an amulet of Mara, and other bits and bobs that would indicate romance to some degree. And given I could find no other explanation for this, and after our learnings from Yngvild and Arondil, it's very safe to assume that Arondil actually used this tent to put milkmaids and young girls into a false sense of security. Then he'd invite them back to his, and they would end up a corpse in his fridge, and then a ghost in his bed. Ladies, stick with Tinder. So a very interesting find in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. I hope you learned something new, or at the very least, found this video interesting in some way. If you have found any cool things or cool stories, hidden things, any theories, anything you would like me to look into or bring into the light in any of the Elder Scrolls games, be sure to leave a comment down below explaining what it is you want me to cover, and hopefully in time I'll be able to get onto it and make a video on it. So again, be sure to leave a comment letting me know of any cool things you found in any of the Elder Scrolls games that you think are worth covering. Not quite yet, but in time, in the description there will be links to other Elder Scrolls detective videos. In the description is also a link to my Twitter page. Please consider following me to guarantee that you are notified when I upload a new video to YouTube. Like, comment, and share. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and would like to see videos similar to this one. There will be a playlist button on screen you can also check out. Thank you very much for watching, thanks for supporting the channel, and I will see you very shortly in the next video. Don't get any ideas from Arondil.